Hello my MGTOW brothers, back again in for another video. In this one we're going to be talking about the male side of the sexual market value. To review, using TFM's scale or list of sexual market value traits. In descending order, they are wealth or resources, physicality or physical appearance, attitude, or like he just likes to describe it, alpha traits, and the last being personality. As you notice, the two things that are the same are universal traits, which is personality and physique or looks. Personality is how you get along with the other person, which is universal, and physique or looks is about genes. Where the list diverges is with youth and virtue on the woman's side, and on the male side, wealth and attitude. These traits are more mission appropriate, and the other two are more universal. Youth in a woman is more important to a man because a woman's window of opportunity for having children is a lot less than men's. A man's wealth or resources is more important to women because his mission is to protect and provide for her offspring. Alpha traits and virtue are opposite sides of the same scale. Virtue points to the amount of moldability or adaptability for the woman, and attitude or alpha traits points to the strengths and resilience for a man, which is what a woman desires more. Now we're going to look at these four traits for a man, desirable traits for a man, from a woman's esoteric point of view. If you remember from an earlier video, what's more important to a woman, where her loyalty actually lies, first to her nest and secondly to her offspring. Now, knowing that, you can see why her first loyalty or her first need is for resources. Now, resources for a man is wealth or money, possessions like a house, car, what have you, ability to provide income, and overall ability to provide. Now, if her first priority is to build a nest, a woman will look for these things because this is the material or the resources that she's going to use to fashion her nest for her young. If he's able to provide her with food, clothing, and shelter, the basics in abundance, that's what she's going to look for. This is more of the business end of her instincts. This is also why women want marriage and commitment, because she wants to have security. This is what she means by security. Security for herself and for her offspring and her nest in general. Second on the list is about genes, and his look is directly related to what her environment is about. With genes or looks or physique, all these things are thrown into it. Size, weight, muscle, intelligence, all those things are inheritable. That is the material that she's going to design or build her offspring with. If she's in a more primitive society or aggressive society where size and weight and muscle is more advantageous, she'll pick that over brains and looks. If the society is more complex and smarts and brains are more desirable, that's what she'll pick, because that's going to give her offspring a better advantage. To a lesser degree, more phenotype or phenotypical traits like hair color, eye color, grade of hair, whether he's thin or more attractive, that depends on the society that she's in. what's going to give her offspring a leg up. If it's blonde hair and blue eyes in a European dominated society, that's what she's going to desire. If it's an African dominated society, she's going to want a darker man with different phenotype and different phenotypical traits, because that is the building blocks that she's going to use, her body's going to use to give her offspring a physical advantage over the rest of the offspring out there, the rest of the children out there. As we go down the list is attitude or alpha traits. Now, the attitude or alpha traits is less about material security like the first two are. It's more about psychological and emotional security. Alpha traits supply social standing, psychological guidance, and the ability to handle problems, and basically to give her more of a secure base which to raise her offspring with. So if a man has more confidence, more swagger, he has the psychological ability to handle whatever situations come his way and to be able to solve those problems with the materials that he has. And his leadership or his degree of ability to solve problems and handle situations is one of those things that can make her choose one man over the other. And the last one is personality. Personality, just like in the female SMV, is a combination of the first three, and how a man is able to make those first three characteristics compatible with her personality, whether he can adjust and bend to the changes and smooth out the differences in upbringing and socialization that the woman has. Usually a woman will describe a man's personality in relationship to the first three things. If a guy is a nice guy but he's materially bankrupt, she'll say he's okay but he's a broke guy. If he's not physically adequate, for instance, as far as physique, she'll say he's short or he's got a short man's complex or something like that. If he's got, if the second thing is if he's got strong alpha traits, she'll describe him as a thug or a bad boy. As far as personality is concerned, a woman will always reference a man's personality with a comparison to one of the first three, or even sometimes a combination of all three. And even if he's compatible personally with her, personality wise with her, and he's lacking in the other three, then he will become that too nice guy. In other words, his personality is compatible, but the other three things that doesn't have is how she's going to describe him. So you ask, how does these four traits relate personally to men and relate personally to what a MGTOW shows about himself? So inwardly and esoterically, what are these things to a man? Now, if we take wealth or material wealth or resources, what is that esoterically for a man? Now, personal wealth for a man is the basics: food, clothing, shelter, all that stuff. But it's the material world that surrounds him, including his women or his woman, because this is the acquired material that he's going to use to fashion and shape his world around him, his life. The more he acquires, the more material that he has to leverage and to build. A man with $1 billion can shape his world and his surroundings a lot better than a man with no money in his pocket on the street. A middle-aged man with 20 or 30 years on the job has a lot more ability to shape and fashion his world than a young man that's just out of high school and has never worked before. Your resources are like the clay from the Nile that Khnum shapes the world and shapes people out of. Going down the list, your physical characteristics or your genetics are the innate tools that you come to this plane with, that you use to shape the materials or the resources that you have. A bigger, stronger guy has the physical tools to do heavier labor for a lot longer, whether it's working on a farm or making a crowd do what you want them to do. If you are bigger and stronger, it helps you shape your reality in a physical fashion. Genetically, intelligence or IQ helps you shape your world in a different way. A smarter guy will figure out methods and ways around the physicality that people with lesser IQs cannot. They'll figure out methods and different ways of doing things and ways to use the material that people with lesser IQs cannot. They'll use persuasion rather than physicality when dealing with other people socially. Going down the list, we come into alpha traits or attitude. And this comes to two things: leadership ability and will. Stronger willed people tend to be considered more alpha than other folks. And you're considered alpha to the degree of how strong your actual will is. For instance, just approaching women, it takes a lot of will to be able to overcome your natural aversion to rejection and approach women, or a lot of women, and be comfortable with that. It takes will to overcome a fear and to handle a situation on the job. It takes a lot of will to be able to handle new and different situations when problems arise. And the last one is personality. Now, personality is a combination of all three, and your temperament or your ability to make those mesh with those around you. Personality-wise, you could have a perfect score on the first three. You could be a billionaire. You could have great physique and great looks. Now, you could have great will and leadership ability, but your ability to mesh those with those around you could be so poor that while you're talented and you can get things done, people hate your guts and they can't stand to be around you. On the opposite end, you could be that bum on the street, that alcoholic that has nothing, no money, no resources, no will, or alpha traits, and your physical appearance is shoddy, but the people around you actually love and care for you because you mesh well with them. You make it smooth. You brighten their day. So in a relatable factor to everyone else, that's where the personality lies. Your personality is the interface socially with everybody else. And how well you interface or how well you do is directly attributed to what kind of temperament, what kind of personality you have. Some of it's innate and some of it's socially and culturally learned. Now, this is just a rough sketch of those four traits. And the difference between these four traits as a man and the four traits as a woman is that a man has a lot more control over the traits than a woman has. And the four traits are a lot more interrelated with each other than a woman's four traits. And the trait that's probably least valued by women, which is alpha traits or attitude, is the most important to men, because that is where the will lies. And with a man's will, And his attitude, that's what guides the other three tools that he actually has. So in the market value of traits for MGTOWs and for men, the attitude is most important, because with the attitude we can create and use the other three to create our world in abundance. And it's the most important to us personally. But with that, I'm going to sign off, and I'll see you next time.